So like I think like
Is this close enough?
somewhere like this. Is that good? It's not like too in your face.
No, I don't think so. I don't mind having my face hidden.
Okay, cool. All right, perfect.
I'm so excited.
Not that this is a podcast, but I mean we're technically
it's
on
about
now.
to be.
Yeah. I mean, we're just gonna start like this. It'll just start like this randomly, you know.
I think that's the best way to start it.
Like there's gonna be no intro. It just goes. Yeah. Like it's just like we're half setting up, and then there you go.
And then here we are.
We're just doing it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so here we are. We're talking about stuff.
Yapping.
We're talking about all kinds of out there, wild and interesting things.
Real things.
Real things, yeah. Like
which is trippy to think about.
Yeah, because technically, even though they're real, like the topic is going to be very much about stuff that we have no idea how it'll actually manifest itself.
Exactly, yeah. And it's stuff that is like all fun to like theorize, but then is becoming more and more real, even in the time that we wrote the song till now.
Yeah, that's a crazy one, actually.
Yeah.
How fast everything is just literally going. I know everybody's talking about that, but it's becoming that the rate of acceleration is accelerating.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is wild. I mean, that's the whole thing about the whole exponential nature of all these things that we're going to get into. But yeah, it's hard to keep track of anything, I feel like.
100%.
Especially that has anything to do with technology is just really, really difficult to keep your tabs on. How do you keep tabs on, like, yourself? If you have to like stay on the trends of technology, like, are you like on Twitter, or are you like where do you go for that?
I am everywhere. I try to be on Twitter or X, whatever.
Oh, right.
And then also just YouTube. I'm constantly on YouTube, just looking up everything. Mm-hmm. Or if I see a random headline on X, obviously I never trust it 100%. Mm-hmm. So then I'll go look it up or whatever. And then just, yeah. I don't know. It's hard. You have to like actively stay in the loop. You can't just like come across things, which is a little bit overwhelming, but I think whenever I feel like out of control, I arm myself with knowledge. If I know more, I feel like less, like I feel like I have a handle on it, even if we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
The more I learn, I'm like, okay.
It's like a shield.
At least I can understand it in some way or make my own predictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I feel like, yeah, like as much as I don't like X, there are like aspects of it that are cool where in terms of like the real timeness of things.
Exactly.
So like, especially with, I feel like anything that has to do with AI and technology and all the growth and stuff, like there's so many experts over there that are just chatting amongst each other.
Exactly.
And if you like put yourself into those little loops by following them, I made a few like, what are they called, like pages or something? Like you like you can basically like put specific people into a little container.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then you can see that feed specifically.
I forget what it's.
I forget
like community. I forget.
Yeah, it's something like that. But like, so I have like a music AI one, and then I have like a general AI one.
Oh my God, I gotta get in there.
Yeah, I wonder if I can share that. Maybe I can. But it's just like, I like to see like the weird topics. Like there's like in the music AI one, there's like white papers that people are like putting out all the time about just random stuff. Like, oh, here's this new thing that I'm trying to develop at my school. And it'll be it'll be like a new deep model of auto-tune or something.
Oh,
like,
whoa, okay.
Yeah, like that was one of the ones I actually saw. Was like, I think they literally called it deep tuning, which is really crazy. Which is
funny.
It's basically like they're like going deeper into tuning.
Like, oh my God.
I won't get into any of that. But the point is, there's like all this like niche knowledge over there that is like easier to get to like in real time than it is like just trying to like Google that stuff. You know what I mean?
100%. And that's, I think, why it's also kind of overwhelming. I feel like I don't follow a lot of like music people in those like spaces because I'm usually like searching for like, is the world gonna end? So mine is like a lot less like musically niche.
Yeah.
It's a lot more like the economy and like all the scary real stuff. And then just like everything that we talked about in the studio, like consciousness and relationships. And like that's been a huge thing I've noticed kind of amongst all of it is like how it taps into our emotions. Because I feel like prior to that, like technology is like about like what it can achieve or accomplish, which obviously is at the center of all the AI developments, but also just like everyone being like, it is going to have like a handle on like our emotions, which is like, I think that's what's like driving my like deep interest of it. Cause I'm just like, how is this going to like change everything?
Yeah.
Aside from just like being useful.
I mean, yeah, we should go into that direction, absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we go fully in there,
Okay, yes.
but I do want to. Let's go there. But like, give just like a 2-second little intro on like, you know, who you are, where you come from, and all this, whatever you want to, you know, explain. Because I'm assuming nobody's gonna know too much about. Like, I mean, other than like maybe like I can post some stuff in here. Like, I don't know about the YouTube takedowns and that kind of stuff, like how crazy they are.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I can have like little snippets and audio clips and stuff like that. But like, you know, just give a little, you know, explanation on who you are and all that jazz.
Yes. I always say like I get so nervous because I never have had like a good elevator pitch for myself, but I'm an artist. I've been songwriting for a while with other artists, and then I started doing my own project with people that I'd met in the industry. I was working with different producers, like mostly with other artists, and then I just became friends with people, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you making? So I started doing my own project, and yeah, I've been in LA now for a few years. I want to say 3. Time here is like literally sucked into like a vacuum. I have no idea.
Yeah, 'cause you're
actually don't know how long I've been here.
Was you Montreal or?
I'm from Canada, but I'm from Manitoba, like
Manitoba.
right in the middle of Canada.
Right.
Above the Midwest, but I always say that, and then I say, but it's not like the Midwest. But I don't know if that's offensive to the Midwest
the
or
Midwest
I don't know.
Canada?
We're just different.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you're from the cold climate as well, then.
Exactly, which is why I always joke like everyone where I came from is like in a musical project because you have to be inside like 10 months of the year.
Oh, funny.
So there's like nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's like I guess like Finland has and Sweden and Norway, they all have that like thing about like black metal. I don't know if you've seen all these memes, like black metal memes about like, you know, like just what was that one? It's so funny. Maybe I can put it up. It's like the one where like the park rangers in Finland always have a problem of like trying to go to look for black metal bands because they get lost in the woods in the winter because they're taking their promo shots there.
Oh my God.
So there's always like jobs for them to like go hunt
That's
for
really
these
funny.
like black metal bands.
That's so true. The outdoor like winter promo photo. That's so like that just like unlocked so much in my brain.
I'll post one right here. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so like okay, so Manitoba, right?
That's the kind of vibe. Yeah. It's in there, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So you've been here a few years now. And so we were introduced through this process. So like along the way, we got together and worked on songs.
Yep.
And we've done how many now? Like we did Biblical, this new one, Transcendent. We did Pretty Traumatized, and then Taste for Blood. Right?
Yes, those are the ones that have come out, but we've done so many others.
We've done a bunch, right?
Yeah.
And some of them have actually also kind of tapped into some like the territory of this new one, but I mean
100%, yeah.
So there's this, maybe we can talk a little bit about like the themes overall, like not so then we can narrow it down into Transcendent a little bit. But like I mean, when we first met, like some of the things that are really fun to me about your project were the sort of like the kind of to me it's like this sort of like a theater of it, like where it's like I remember you talking actually about was it your dad or somebody who was there's like something about a theater, like was it a movie or like
the Phantom of the Paradise?
Yes, Phantom of the Paradise, right?
Yeah, we watched it in the studio. Well, we didn't watch the full movie, but we watched parts of it.
Yeah, can you like briefly like remind me of that like story a little bit?
So it kind of is like Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's a similar kind of vibe of a movie. It was Paul Williams plays like, I guess, the devil character. I don't know what his character technically would be. And he creates this rock opera or steals a rock opera and puts on like opens a venue with it. So it's kind of all about like the record industry in the 70s and like it's very niche. But when it came out, I guess it flopped like worldwide except in Paris and Winnipeg, which is where I'm from. So it has like a cult following in France and in Manitoba.
Crazy. So
I grew up just knowing what it was because everyone where I come from knows what it is.
Yeah. So that I remember talking about that, and then I think there was a lot. I can't remember all the things we discussed. A lot of stuff, but like basically the end result was biblical.
Yes,
This
yeah.
is the first song.
Yes,
I
because the
think.
final scene in Phantom is like this freaky acid trip wedding.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, I've always had a fantasy of doing like a music video that is like the wedding scene and then biblical tied in, obviously. Like there's like a pope in that scene and stuff. And we're just like flipping through imagery. And then it kind of inspired the song. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of like a little bit of like a. It was like that was like a sort of the base layer of like where you could, and at least what that I considered, because when we did the other songs like Pretty Traumatized and especially Taste for Blood, that there was this like they're also like I guess like visual to me, like where there's like, and that's my favorite part about, I guess, music, when you get to do this sort of like word painting type of stuff where it's like Taste for Blood is like, I feel like the ultimate one, where it's like there's so much stuff to draw
It's like
from.
jam-packed into that song.
Every little moment has like some sort of word paintingness, like all the evil laughing and like the monsters and like all that stuff. It's just so fun to like get to kind of like, I mean, like the simpler versions that people that I always think about for that kind of stuff is like when like Frank Sinatra sings like, let's take it nice and easy, it's gonna be so easy, we're pulling out, we're gonna stop along the way, and then the band stops, it's that kind of stuff. It's super simple and duh.
Very literal.
Yeah, but it's like there's something really like, it makes the music more tangible. It's like all of a sudden the sound waves stop coming at you when the person says stop, and it's like there's this like it reminds you that like this thing is physical.
Yeah, you know who else does that actually so well? On the other side of the spectrum from Sinatra, Eminem. Like the production, it's always like so literal, and like you said, like there's like a physicality to it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
like you're experiencing the song.
Yeah, I feel like the best songs usually tend to have that sort of effect on some level, I guess. Like, I mean, Lose Yourself is definitely like, it's got theater to it.
It's actually
it's literally,
so theatrical.
Yeah, because it's literally built for that, like, I guess the movie, but like, it's just so,
literally.
Yeah, anyway, but yeah, that's the stuff that really I love about all the songs that we've done is that sort of extra-ness of it, all the theater and stuff.
So extra.
And I think like, even so, going with Transcendent, I always say it wrong. Is it Transcendence?
It's Transcendent, but literally getting ready for like the release, I am triple checking everything because I'm like, we're going to say it wrong at some point on something.
At some point, I think the demo was called Transcendence.
I think so, yeah.
And then, so I keep like, anyway.
And we say both in the chorus. I say both, so.
Oh, right.
We changed it to have both, so extra confusing.
Yeah. Just to make it,
Just to make it extra confusing.
Yeah. So with Transcendence, right?
Transcendent.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to remember it now with the T.
It's also my only single without like the text on the. I always do text because I just think it's retro. But it was going to interfere with the art, so there's no text on it, so it's going to be extra confusing.
Oh, the artwork, right? Like, you just showed it to me. So good timing. We'll put it up here so you can look at this beautiful thing here. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit more too.
Yeah.
But yeah, just on the point of Transcendent, and like the themes of the song. So because I love when you can also like have themes from like there's a like, you clearly have like a very clear, even though you just said you don't have an elevator pitch.
I don't. For myself as a whole. But.
Yeah, but like to me, like you're very clear about what you want and how, like where you want to go, and like what is it that you want your visuals to look like, the whole thing, like the whole thing. And it's so much easier to work, and it's so fun when somebody has that.
Right.
'Cause not everybody does. Everybody does. And like, because it makes like stuff like the sort of interwovenness of the song from song, like, because even today, like in this today's day and age, like release schedules are like singles, right? Like, so it's hard to keep this sort of cohesiveness when you're not doing a record, when you're not doing an EP or an album, and you're just putting out singles. But like, so in the back of my mind, ever since the first song, I was like, okay, there's this theme, there's this whole thing. Let's try to keep that going as much as possible, which has been super fun for me. So I got to say that.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, and because transcendence, I feel like transcendent is like definitely has all of the sort of emotional sort of like connections that biblical sort of set up in there, like with the choir and stuff.
Yeah,
like that was like really important for transcendent, because that starts to blur the gaps between the technology and the like the religion and like the sort of like, because like even in the song itself, not that we have to get like super crazy into it yet, but like the idea of like transcending technologically is technically like a sort of like analogy, or it's synonymous to like the afterlife and like and religion, and like, and this is like a whole topic that a lot of people have actually been talking about for a long time, about how there's almost like a cult-like attitude in the tech world in general about how, like, you know, like when you hear like sort of very fervent AI enthusiasts talk about AI and singularity especially, and those types of topics, they get very like sort of dogmatic and like almost like religious about these things. So anyway, so my point is that having that underlying theme of biblical and like the sort of the choir and like the whole the pitch, you know, the shift from like the key change and like having that lift and all that stuff, it's very churchy.
It's so churchy,
underlying all of that stuff. So anyway, what are your thoughts around, like, I guess, transcendent and like all that sort of layers that are hidden in there and like that whole stuff, like that whole topic?
I feel like we kind of accidentally like laid the groundwork with biblical, because really like everything thematically and musically, like I was so grateful to work with you and Mike, because I feel like everything I'm trying to like say in a lyric, like it is so supported by the track, which is amazing, and by all the little like pieces that you're talking about before.
Right, yeah.
And so I feel like it so clearly expresses like the themes that are kind of like I'm gathering from different parts of my life. So like I was raised with Roman Catholicism, so I just have those references if I'm talking about like a relationship or whatever. Like I just go there in my brain because that's like my schema, so to speak. So then taking that and kind of like copy pasting it into like the experience of, okay, now there's all this new technology, and what does that mean, and what does it mean in the context of religion, and yeah, that's something I've been thinking about so much, which I kind of mentioned when we got here, and then you're like, turn on the camera because this is kind of the whole thing.
This is what we want to talk about. Yeah.
Exactly. But like just like what is our purpose if like machines can do things better than us? And I've just been thinking so much, and I was thinking so much at the time that we wrote Transcendent about like just the idea of like religion being so obviously archaic in some of its ideas and everything, but like the idea of love being retro, the idea of religion being retro, like all these things, like the more we understand science and where we came from and everything, like it's just like things that are almost like nostalgic. Like for me, religion is nostalgic because like I grew up with it, even though I'm not.
Same.
I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm not a religious person, but it has a sense of nostalgia. But I feel like that's so layered now because it's like extra nostalgic because it's like,
right.
I don't know, like the world just like seems different. So I feel like biblical, like laid the groundwork almost for that. And now it's kind of like we're exploring like other themes, but they do all tie together. It's kind of almost like AI generated ideas. Like my songs are like the mid-journey of
funny.
like all the prompts, like religion, technology.
Cool. I didn't think that's a fun way to think about it.
It's like it's mimicking our brain, but our brain does that. It's like it's all like thematically stuff that I've experienced, right? But I do feel like I've been able to summarize those things so well. I feel like we always joke about this. Like every time we're in the studio, I'm like yapping about a million different things. And then you're like, oh, we kind of wrote a song about all of them. Like I feel like that speaks to like the room as well. Like it's just easy to kind of like put the ideas together and they tie together musically and everything. And like, it is kind of like just sticking all the prompts in.
That's so funny about the prompts, yeah. Before I forget, by the way, you mentioned Mike Green. We gotta give a
Yes.
shout out to Mike. He's been a part of every single song that us three have done together. So
Exactly.
so all these songs that we're talking about that we've done. So yeah, Mike has been part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've known him since way back in the day. He's a homie. Yeah. So the prompt stuff is so funny to me. Still thinking about that.
Well, it's kind of like strange to think about because it's like the prompts are supposed to like mimic a brain, but like
Right.
our brains do that. So it's so simple in a sense, like how the
Yeah.
iPhone is so complicated, but it's like so intuitive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, there's so many ways you could take that. I mean, because one of the things that makes me think about almost is like it almost feels like sort of like the life that you've lived up until now
mm-hmm.
is like sort of the thing that is like the prompt itself,
right,
kind of. You know what I
Right.
mean? Where it's like, because when you go to output something like art, music, whatever the medium, it's based off of that prompt,
mm-hmm.
right? Like so, because every single one of us lives a unique life, more or less,
Mm-hmm.
and then it creates a unique prompt.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like code or something, and then that prompt expresses itself in certain types of ways,
Right.
and it's, I mean, of course, like people who tend to really be into the idea of like us living in a simulation and stuff, that definitely resonates into because then it's like, there's all these things about like predetermination and stuff that come into
Right.
play too, which is really strange to think about because that's also like another aspect that is sort of connects religion and this sort of AI tech thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you believe in like I've actually had this like discussion about the simulation thing with a few of my friends. I tend to not believe in it just because it seems like Occam's razory, like it's like too complex to be a
Right.
real thing. I do like the thought like process of like, or as a thought experiment, I like it.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's so many like things that would be like too difficult to actually have happen.
I feel like
Plus, it's like one of those things that's like unprovable, kind of.
100%.
Because every single thing that you say, like, okay, this is the proof that like we live in a singularity. Or, I mean, not a singularity. I'm getting my
A
words.
simulation.
Simulation.
Yeah.
That could be part of the simulation.
Right.
Right. That every single proof that you give could be a part of it. So it's like this like unprovable. Unfalsifiable, I guess, is the word that I'm
Right.
looking for. But anyway, it's a fun thought experiment because it's that like there's these parallels with like again with the religion and the sort of like digital world of the domain and like the code being like written already pre-written
Mm-hmm.
like so yeah. Anyway, I
I
don't
think
know.
science is kind of like a simulation anyways. Like I don't believe it's like predetermined either. I agree it's fun as a thought experiment, but like just like, I don't know, quantum physics, like making things happen with your mind. I'm like, that's pretty trippy in the first place.
I did want to mention the thing about like because I've been trying to rack my brain around like because in the song we talk about uploading to the cloud and all that stuff. And like, sort of like, I mean, we should kind of go through the song a little bit,
yes.
like just like in terms of like the lyrics and stuff, because that's kind of like the meat and potatoes here.
Yeah.
So maybe you can set it up because like it's ultimately a love song, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we layer it with this idea of like transcendence, aka like the way that I at least sort of think about it is that like you have this other person that you kind of like you feel almost like holy around, like, right? There's this again this sort of biblical type of thing there, and then you sort of wish and that you could almost leave your physical body and transcend, and through technology, whatever that is, we kind of point to the idea that you do upload yourself to the cloud,
Right.
at the end of the bridge, and then you go and transcend at the end
Yes.
on that final chorus.
Exactly. So fun.
So, like, maybe talk a little bit about like how it progresses for you, because like the verses are a lot more like a little more down to earth, I guess, about the love itself.
A little more grounded.
Yeah, how do you kind of process the lyrics specifically, I guess?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was with like transcendence was the idea, because we were kind of talking about in the studio like what is love, what is consciousness, like, and of course everyone like you can feel emotions like energetically, but I think I liked the idea of like specifically with like uploading love to the cloud, like uploading yourself, your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the idea of like two people's like love or like a connection being like a physical, like tangible thing that you could upload, not just like the feeling of love, but like, okay, so in the song I'm experiencing like being in love with one other person. So like, what is that love? Is it energy? Is it whatever? Like exploring, you know, like it's there when that person passes away or whatever. Like, what is it? And the idea that you could like keep that thing that's between you like forever, like it's a tangible thing. Like you could upload yourselves and like still share that like bond in like in a way that it is like a tangible bond, not just like, oh, I feel love through a computer screen. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Like keeping that specific love, like, I don't know. The idea of like making it like physical and literal, kind of like how we did in other songs with other ideas. Like when people say like, oh, my past loves, like what if you could just like collect them on your computer? Like turn this one on, turn this one on. Like you're actually like, the past loves are like tangible, I guess. So yeah, like the verses are definitely more grounded. And the second verse too, like talks about how like when you're not around that person, you can just like imagine them and they're there. Like, so yeah, that idea of it being like putting that feeling, I guess, into like a physical form and then a non-physical form by like uploading it.
Right.
But yeah, just the idea of like that being its own entity, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that definitely like, yeah, because it opens up so many multiple cans of worms.
Right.
Obviously, like the whole topic of consciousness itself is like almost its own thing. Like, well, it is. It really is. Like, I feel like lately, I don't think this is even like this is very factual almost. I feel like it's like there's tons of more conversations about consciousness in general.
Right.
Not only because of AI, but there's this. It feels like there's just been like a lot more interest in that in any way, I guess. Like I follow a lot of YouTube kind of topics around that, and so it's just like that in itself is like one whole huge mystery. Like it's literally like we call it the hard problem of consciousness because it's like such a crazy difficult sort of idea to grasp, and like people have so many different theories on that. Like whether it's emergent, whether it's fundamental, like if you're like the sort of like idealist, a lot of like, this is also where like it's fascinating because some of these things that people are sort of talking about with consciousness and digital, like sort of uploading and all these sort of things, like the technology is almost like starting to point back towards certain things that like I would, mystics or religion have always kind of like, talked about in a way.
What is that theory that it's like the circle? Like
the snake eating its tail type of thing?
No, it's like the more extreme you are, the closer you are together. Oh, like, it's like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, maybe we can look that up.
I forget what it's called.
We can Wikipedia that and put it here.
But it's like so extreme that it's like a religious experience.
Sure, yeah.
Comes back around.
Yeah, it's like full circle type of thing.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok last night, so fact check. Obviously.
Okay. Sure.
But again, this stuff just comes up because
hey, Jamie, pull that up.
Constantly looking it up. But someone was talking about how like our brains don't like output, we like download or we channel things. So, and like how that's being proven more scientifically. So like, what does that mean for spirituality? Like, what are we downloading? So yeah, it's kind of like.
Oh, the brain is an antenna type of thing?
Yeah, like we're not like outputting, or our brain doesn't create thought necessarily, it channels it or something like that. I don't know. There's research around it.
Yeah, I remember hearing a podcast around that topic specifically. I feel like it was talking about right and left hemispheres and stuff, and there was some talk about, well, there's this theory that maybe, the brain is just an antenna and it's receiving, like, the consciousness itself is not here, it's somewhere else, and the brain is getting, like, a signal and it's connecting the consciousness to the physical form.
It kind of makes sense because, like, how are people, like, psychic? Like, I don't know if people can be, like, I've never experienced a true psychic knowing, like, whatever. But I know people that, have made predictions or known things where they're like, whoa, like, how did I know that or whatever? Like, I feel like everyone has like some level of being psychic. So that would make sense if we're all just kind of like receiving signals.
Yeah.
If we receive the same ones sometimes, or like we know what's happening.
Yeah, there's definitely like I'm usually like super like non woo woo and all that sort of stuff, and I definitely like my I guess like more recently, like as I've been like personally like going down the rabbit hole of consciousness and all these sorts of things, I've gotten more lenient about certain things, like not like again like my personal philosophy today is to not get dogmatic about anything.
Right.
Like
okay.
so and to treat like right, like so there I know that there's like, to me there is such a thing as like objective like truth.
Yeah.
On some level there has to be, like I'm not like somebody who just like completely like will believe in anything.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Of course there needs to be like, science is, we have science for a reason, like right, this is a really good method of sort of like collectively proving certain things, at least to a point where we can have use out of that. Like
Right.
we can go to space, we can, I mean,
That's pretty cool.
and if you're a flat earther, you will not agree with that. It's all a hoax. But yeah, the one thing that it is interesting to me, like about what you said, is like the sort of it feels like sometimes that there's like that sort of like collective consciousness type of thing, like the ant colony type of thing.
Yes.
Where it's like, when you go to call your mom and then she picks up and is like, I was just about to dial you type of thing.
100%. Yeah. There's so many studies about that kind of thing too, of like predictions and like knowing things and like solving problems better when it's like as a collective.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is
There's
so
also like
interesting.
I should look this up because I always keep referring to this and I don't know if this is real. Again, Jamie, pull
We
that
need
up.
a fact checker.
Yeah.
A fast one.
Yeah, but there's like some study, I can't remember what it's about, but something about like how like there would be things that humans couldn't do, like let's say running a mile at a certain speed or solving a certain type of puzzle or something.
Okay.
And this is like pre-internet or whatever.
Okay.
So there's no communication, maybe even pre-telephone or something. I can't remember. Again, Jamie looked that up. But like there was some sort of study around the idea that like when somebody would break a record, let's say it was like a speed record, something dumb like that, like then like the next day, like across the globe, like everybody else all of a sudden was able to do it type of thing.
Whoa.
Like,
wait, I love that.
yeah, so
So trippy.
it's like again, like there's some weird thing like that just maybe is like in the sort of ether in the space and that you really connect to, and that sort of untangibility. So and the one thing that this to me always leads to is like, this is like my ultimate most fascinating part about all of this, like where we're kind of headed to, is that I honestly think that like, to me, what it feels intuitively is that we fully actually don't have a clear understanding on what is the most like sort of more, or let's just say more fundamental layer of reality.
I think, yeah, like even what you're saying about like the race thing and then across the world, like to me, like I don't have a deep enough understanding, but knowing just what I know on the surface, like to me, that just sounds like entanglement. Like something becomes possible and then like, all the atoms are atoming around town.
Yeah.
And then suddenly across the world, it's also possible because it becomes like a physical part of reality. And then it's like existing in reality and then someone else can do it. Like, which is kind of like what I was saying, like, you don't even have to be like, oh, we live in a simulation. Like science is weird enough. Like quantum entanglement, weird enough. Like that sounds like made up and like fake. So
yeah. I mean, spooky action at a distance. I've tried to wrap my head around that topic so many times. And a couple times I've kind of like had some epiphanies, and like all that's like, there's so many interesting things, like you said, that we don't need to like actually invent anything completely crazy. Like, I mean, science itself, like you said, it's like hard to actually like believe in some of this stuff.
Yeah, totally.
It's so complicated.
Cliche, like, it's stranger than fiction. Like, we don't need to, like, make up crazy things because reality is very, very strange.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think, I don't know, like, with the psychic stuff, I don't believe it's, like, magical in any way. I just think it's, like, as humans, we have to be intuitive for, like, survival. And I think people that are psychic just know, like, they have, like, a deep intuition, like, a deep knowing. But I don't think it's necessarily, like, a witchcraft, like, power. But...
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it seems like normal almost that we would be psychic on some level because we have to be intuitive to like survive. So
yeah, I think there's actually like there's some billionaire who has a bounty out. It's since like I can't remember when, but it's like it's like a big amount of cash to basically out there just for anybody to grab if they can prove any real psychic sort of like effect, I guess. I can't remember. I can put that up here and Jamie look that up. But yeah.
How are they looking for them to prove it? Because
so
let's get to work.
yeah. So, but it is
Sounds
interesting.
like a really fun life mission, honestly, side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, from going back to the thing, like for me, like the whole idea around like why I don't completely dismiss just like it's like ghosts and stuff to me. It's like I don't want to dismiss anybody's real life experience with something just because I haven't experienced it. Like to me, ghosts kind of like feel similar. Like I don't want to say I don't believe in them because I just never seen one. So like
I believe in like energy, and I guess I believe in reincarnation in the way that everything is like made out of energy. So you come back in some form because like I do think your soul is like where does it go kind of thing. So I guess that's why in Transcendent I'm like you could just upload it. Like to me it does seem like physical, I guess, in a sense. So yeah, I think in that way that stuff all makes sense to me, like ghosts and stuff. But I have actually seen a ghost.
You have?
I was like 8, so like
let's hear this.
I wouldn't I don't know, even like I gaslight myself about it because I'm like I am right with you, like if you can explain, you can usually explain things like...
Oh, wait, I think you told me. You might have told me.
Yeah. It basically just like I was home alone with my mom. We were in the basement. Our house has always given us like a certain type of feeling. And like obviously my mom isn't that type of... Not obviously. No one knows my mom, but obviously to me, my mom isn't really like, you know, ghosts and whatever. But I was just in the basement and I saw like my stepdad walk by, and it took my brain a second to catch up, and I was like, oh, he's out of town. But the thing that was weird about it was I didn't feel scared, which like if you see a person in your house, you should be like, whoa, like that's like something in me on some level like wasn't freaked out, and I just like called for my mom, and my mom was like, what's up? And I was like, I literally saw like a man walk by the doorway, and she was like, what?
Inside the house?
Inside the house in the basement. And then obviously she like, I went upstairs, she checked the basement, whatever, but it wasn't like I saw a man with a face and whatever. It just like someone walked by to me, but I also think your brain fills in so many gaps. Like
how old were you?
I think I was like 8.
Okay.
So like I just remember it being like a dark kind of like
you didn't remember
figure.
like...
That sounds so scary, but it didn't like look scary. It was just like in my brain I was like my stepdad walking by.
How close was this?
I was like sitting on our couch, like probably like from here to the door. Yeah. Like not super close, but not like insanely far away. But yeah, it
was just like a momentary like...
Yeah, like in my head I was like, that's my stepdad walking by the door. But I didn't like see an identifiable face or whatever. It just kind of was like a person passing. But I was home alone with my mom. And then when my brain kind of went, no one else is here. And then I called to my mom and she was upstairs and I was like, weird. And then my mom was so freaked out. She was like, what? You saw a man in the basement? But I was like, but I'm not scared. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It was like a weird experience.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it could have been, no, there wasn't really any there wasn't even a window. We ended up like opening up the whole basement because it was not to code. So there was no window that could have created like a shadow or something in the back rooms. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. It could have been nothing. I could be making it up in some type of memory. I don't know. But in the moment, it felt very real. And yeah, the part that stuck out to me is like I wasn't afraid. Which, again, if you see a person in your house, you're going to have a certain instinct and like kick in and be like, what the heck? But
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I've never had an experience. I've gone ghost hunting a few times. Oh, dude, this is crazy. We're straight up. We're trying. I want to find a ghost, dude.
2 pool engines. You should film this right here and then go into the pool for like edit.
It's your motherfucking step. That's not a creaky
You
noise.
fucking hear that sound?
Yeah. What was that? Was that for reals? Where did that come from?
From down, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, back in when I was in a band, we were on tour. We would like
You could not pay me to do that.
Yeah, anytime.
Zero interest.
Anytime we were in a place where it was like clearly like it was supposed to be haunted or something, we would go and try to. There's actually a.
Okay, so you've actively tried and you've never had an experience.
Yeah,
so like.
Yeah. There's one time where it was like a college somewhere East Coast. I can't remember where, and there was a house. There was like a. We knew that this building was like haunted or something, and
oh my gosh.
I don't know why, like, cause I honestly I don't like movies like about ghosts and stuff. For some reason that's the worst for me. Like, I'll take anything about serial killers and whatever, it's fine because it's real. I can defend myself against that.
Okay,
but
that
like
makes
a
sense.
ghost, like if it's ghost is trying to get to you, like no, I don't want to watch. But for some reason, I'm totally fine being in I
going to an actual haunted house.
Yeah, I put myself into this haunted house. It was pitch black. It was me and my guitar player, and I just sat in this room. It was pitch black.
Okay, but
empty,
see, if there was actually
like,
something there, maybe you wouldn't have been so comfortable. Like, I feel like we know, that's what I'm saying. Like, the intuition or, like, you can sense on some level, like, this is just a basement or this is just an old, empty house. Like, something in you is like, this is fine.
This is fine, probably, yeah. Anyways, but, maybe get back to the song itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, like, we didn't talk about the artwork yet, really. Maybe we should mention that a little bit. What was your kind of like thought process for that? Like, what was the idea? Where did that come from? I can put it here so we can look at it while you talk.
Perfect. I wanted it to be generated in some way, but I also wanted it to have like really real elements to it. So it is like a photo of me that we edited with AI. And I generated like the background with AI. I don't even know if I should say that. I feel like it's still so controversial. People are like, "Oh my gosh, you stole it."
Yeah.
Or maybe that's it's a good conversation.
I think I mean, it is. It's so split.
Yeah, it's so split. I mean, the art, the single art wasn't created with AI. It was edited with AI honestly, elements. I mean, it's like.
I feel like
it's controversial, but like.
Yeah, anytime you go into like, personally, what I think, like, what you showed it to me looks beautiful. First of all,
Thank you.
And the, if you're gonna use AI and you're gonna use it in terms of like filling in things and like really like you have a clear vision and you're using it as a tool. I mean, to me that's what it is. Of course, there's like massive ethical debates around like the training of the models themselves. Of course, I'm fully on board with like let's make sure that we try at least to to put some laws around that stuff. I don't know how realistic it is, honestly, at this point for like stuff like Midjourney and things like that. Like the companies that are doing the training and doing all like aren't even doing the collection of the data, because those are like different companies doing the web crawls for the actual pictures themselves, and then it's so complicated. I mean, I've gone down the rabbit hole of that stuff, but like it's like every single AI company is operating on the in the way of like shoot first, ask questions later on all of these things.
Yeah, I think that's like what's scary to even the people that help develop things is they're like, we don't know what we're developing this for or what it's going to turn into.
So I feel like my kind of personal feeling around just kind of like how to use that stuff is just like it's kind of like Napster or the internet itself or Uber. Like you can't. Once those things exist, you can't unplug.
100%,
you know what I mean? Like even if we were able to successfully just completely stop all development, like that's like for AI that's unethical or whatever, there would be ways around that. Like Pirate Bay, like is a good example of that. Like Pirate Bay exists today still, and every single the U.S. government has literally tried everything probably to shut them down. Still standing. Yeah, it's like that puts it into perspective for you. Like when Uncle Sam can't pull you down.
Yeah, no, like, it's so true. And I think like I've always kind of had not like I didn't invent this philosophy, but like if you're claiming to have like created something, like if I was like, oh, I made this, but I use AI tools to achieve it, and also worked with like an editor and an artist. So like it was a collaborative effort between a real human artist, myself, and also AI. Yeah. So I don't know. Obviously, it is controversial, but I wanted to explore. I want to I'm just curious about all of it, right? And I think with the themes of the song, it just, to me, made sense to kind of what I was saying when I got here is create something that has like a natural feeling to it. It kind of like is a nod to artists, different artists, like I was saying, like Dolly. But yet it's like generated. And so there's something about it when you look at it. And as I was doing different edits, it was kind of like losing that. And then it would kind of come back and we were trying to figure out what elements were kind of giving it that feeling. But I wanted you to like look at it and be like, oh, that's a painting, but not quite. Like it's something a little like uncanny valley about
uncanny
it.
valley, yeah.
Yeah.
In a sense, I mean, that it makes sense with the song. I mean, 'cause
Exactly,
we're straddling that line. It's like the thing about analog and digital almost, and like the sort of
I mean, is it ethical to like upload ourselves to the cloud?
Physical and ethereal and like, exactly. I think it makes perfect sense. And I think that the second that you have like real meaning and purpose and goals and directions, and then you're using AI as a tool to push into those directions in new ways, I think that's great. I think like it's just like I said, it is inevitable that it exists now. So it's like
It can't unexist.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's its own like podcast topic, of course. It's
100%.
itself.
I feel like they could like, I mean, in my brain it makes sense. Couldn't they eventually just like literally note in like the metadata like what images they literally pulled to create the image? Like,
you mean the output, like when you go from Midjourney or whatever?
Like, wouldn't that just be the
like a watermark?
Some type of watermark or something
they
to where you could credit whoever.
They said, I think they've tried that, but it's just so difficult to, I think, keep track. They've tried that with music too.
Okay.
There's a whole I think Google has like their AI system tries to do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
They're semi-successful. I think like there's just so much like in the there's just so many things you can do to get rid of that stuff, I feel like, nowadays. And it's like one of those things. It's like white hat versus black hat. Is that what it's called? Like coders, or hackers who are like, you get the good guys and the bad guys, and they're constantly fighting. It's like one's trying to put in like sort of like fail safes, and the other one's trying to like break those down.
Right.
And so
I do think there is like this excitement / like maybe unhinged energy too of like just wanting to advance the thing. And so those things are kind of like you said, like an afterthought.
Yeah, exactly. The whole shoot first, ask questions later mentality is what is pushing everything forward. Right. And it's like we as like the normal like humans that are doing our own thing, like, and we have to kind of like come to terms with that on some level, and some people choose to completely cut themselves off from all of that, and others choose to go fully in, like 100%. I'm going to become cyborg, and like no thrills, and just go fully there. And then you got people somewhere in the middle. I feel like I might maybe somewhere in the middle with that. Like, again, this kind of comes back to my sort of like not wanting to become dogmatic about anything. Right. Like I feel like I in order to like go forward into the future and stuff, I think it's really important to be able to hold two contradicting positions at once. Yeah. Like and have those in balance and say, 'cause
you mean like actual critical thinking?
Yeah. It's like it's like it's
speaking of retro.
It's crazy that it's controversial that you are holding
to be a critical thinker.
Or to hold two contradicting positions at the same time, and to go neither of these are correct. Right. Yeah. But that's the thing. Like like pretty much every single topic that's controversial, that's difficult to talk about, is always in some sort of gray area. It's always some sort of like heap paradox. It's called the sororities paradox. It's like where at what point is like a multiple grains of rice a heap versus just multiple grains of rice? Is it 10 or is it 20 or is it 100?
I feel like that's how I feel about my art all the time. Is this just a bunch of words?
Yeah.
Or does this mean something?
Yeah.
Is it something else?
It's like
is this a heap?
Is this an art, or is this science, or is this
what is this?
What is this? Yeah.
A clump of lyrics with no meaning, or is it art?
Yeah. No, but it is. It's fascinating to try to navigate it. I mean, it's hard, but
I think like in terms of like the definitions that already exist, not that I'm like trying to put myself in a box, but just like trying to like make my own understanding make sense. I think if I understand correctly, I lean towards the side of like futurism, like being positive about it.
Yeah,
like
same.
I want to be positive about it because I feel like if we're not, then like I do think we create reality to an extent.
Yeah.
So like I'm scared to be too like, oh,
Pessimistic about it,
it's
yeah.
gonna be horrible,
Yeah.
and then like it will be because the collective is like, what? It's gonna be
Yeah.
awful, and then like it could be awful.
Yeah, I always I refer to myself as like a optimistic realist
Right.
usually, when I don't know if that's a real thing, but that's what I like to think of myself as. Like
That makes sense.
because like I totally 100% agree with you. I think I'm in the same boat that I like. To me, it's like all this talk about like singularity, for example, is it's such a it is really like a religion to on some level, because there's if you take that claim seriously, that at one point we're going to create something like artificial superintelligence, which is basically at that point that is singularity. That's the point where
Yeah.
technology will. It's called a singularity because they take that they're borrowing that language from like black holes in mathematics or
Right.
physics, where like point in a black hole where you can't, like, light can't escape any further, is basically like a point where you can't make meaningful calculations anymore around
Right.
what is happening inside of the black hole, basically, and so technological singularity is that point where we can't make any sort of predictions anymore, like realistically. Like we could try, but it's futile because the exponential rate is so fast. Anyway, so if we believe that that's actually going to happen, then that's like the movie, like Her, is basically completely about that. Like that sort of
Right.
moment where like it's like that it talks to you and it's like, well, I'm sorry, like this isn't working anymore because I'm having like all these way more meaningful conversations with all these other super intelligences,
Right.
and you're just a little mouse, and this is kind of over.
I feel like that's like, it's funny. It's kind of what we said like earlier about how fast things are moving, because like none of that sounds like that extreme when you talk about it. Like I feel like of course we'll reach that point because we already like don't really know where things are going, and
Right.
like yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like that's like seems like a very inevitable
Yeah,
place to end up.
yeah. To me, it's really like there's two things to me. There's one is, I mean, if we survive, in terms of like there is no big apocalyptic event, whatever that
Right.
is, disease or nuclear war or whatever, and technology we have the ability to keep going on this exponential curve.
Right.
If that's happening, and then if we kind of just solve like the other part of that equation is the alignment problem, which is like the sort of thing about that everybody in the AI field is worried about, is that are we able to, as humanity, align ourselves with AI in a way, or we can code it in a way where it is sort of operating with us and in a way where it's like the way that I think about the sort of best case scenario for an artificial superintelligence and general intelligence too is that it becomes like an extension of ourselves. Like
Right.
the other way to put it that I like to think about it is that like somebody explained it kind of like this, is where like currently we have all these narrow AIs, right? Like we have all these tools, like AI's been able to beat humans at chess for
Yeah.
like, super long already, like and go already, and so and then there's
If
all
it's
these
playing me, that's not that hard.
yeah, and there's all these other narrow AIs that exist, and obviously that's controversial. Some people already believe that we're on like the first stages of AGI and
Right.
all this stuff, but I don't think we're fully quite there yet. But I think it's just inevitable at this point that we're gonna get there. But like to me, like the narrow AI, like all these like AI systems that we have, they're like little modules, and I like to think of them as like different parts of the human brain, almost in a way where it's like you got your prefrontal cortex and you got all these other parts that are like meant to do specific tasks, right? Like kind of like little narrow AIs of themselves, and then the whole thing as a whole is like the sort of general intelligence.
Right.
And then so AI doesn't have any like limit to that. right? Like there
Right.
is no physical space. There's no brain cavity
Yeah.
that it needs to
We're
exist in.
limited.
It's
Our little
theoretically like sort of kind of unlimited in a way.
Right.
And so a super intelligence will eventually, just be this godlike creature. And if we in a perfect scenario, like I was saying, like if we solve the alignment problem and we kind of get into this place where we can upload, or I mean, have like a brain computer interface, which is what, Elon is trying to do with Neuralink.
Right.
And we solve that throughput problem and all that stuff, then we could ideally use that as an extension of like basically our own brain. So like, it's like just, this is just like the sort of thing that makes us understand the transfer of information between the interface and the super intelligence. So
Yeah.
and then we could tap into it however we want to, and not have it be like this all controlling, powerful, like it dominates.
Yeah.
It has to be the flow of information, or the ideas has to go from here to there, not from there to
Right.
here. But like
It opens up the door for that.
yeah,
though.
because that's the
scary.
worry. Like I don't know
Then
if
we could actually have our brains hacked because
yeah.
I think I said this to you in the studio once, but like I read a quote somewhere that was like, "Oh, our brains are the most hackable technology." So like that freaked me out, that idea, because I'm like, it's so true. But yeah.
Nick Bostrom talks about this stuff. He has a new book out. I haven't read it yet, but his new book is apparently about more like the utopianness of like the future.
That is like that. I love reading about that and listening to people talk about that, like a post-capitalistic society. Like
yeah, you should actually 100%. I'm sure. I mean, I need to read it too, so we should both put it on our list.
Okay,
I think.
yes.
Or you as well if you're interested in this. But yeah, it's so fascinating because like ultimately like for me, like kind of going back to one of the other things that I was saying earlier about like how I don't personally think that we fully. I mean, it seems almost obvious, but like there are more and more discoveries that. In science that that are hinting to the idea that like space time itself is not fundamental. It's not the base layer of reality or whatever.
Right.
And so one of the things that I'm personally like probably the most excited about in our lifetime is the ability for us to tap in with AI to solve real like potential science things, like actual like things about like what is, maybe we could discover that there's something more fundamental after space-time, and people are already doing research into that. There's a guy who's claimed that he's been able to find like mathematics outside of space-time,
right,
and then from there he's able to like calculate like and solve like particle acceleration collisions at the Large Hadron Collider in CERN. It's crazy. It's I can link a thing here, but it's super fascinating.
kind of mind blowing.
Because imagine like if we have a super intelligence or even a general intelligence that solves that base layer reality for us, or something that's more fundamental than space time.
Okay, well, it's really a fantastic pleasure to be here. And indeed, I'm talking about the sort of a rather dramatic sounding title about the end of space-time. But it's not really hyperbole.
And now we have access to that, and we can sort of manipulate that. That you can then think about what that means. Like you can almost all of a sudden like treat space and time as like silly putty.
Yes, that's where I love to just disappear into like the rabbit hole.
Yes.
And also part of that rabbit hole is thinking about like, okay, then where does that lead us with like how much religion like rules society? And like it's obviously supposed to be like a separation of church and state in America, but like it's not really fully. And like if we understand reality in such a different way, like what happens to religion? Like religion causes so like, I don't know, like it sets up society in so many ways with law, with like causing wars. Like, does this lead us to a better place? Does it lead us to a worse place? Is it going to be cult-like in the way that there's people that refuse to believe it and it's all a test from God and like just things like that?
Yeah.
I'm like, people aren't just going to like accept things like that.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about the topic of truth and just like how we as humans, like we sort of throughout our history, like as a human race, we've always had some sort of source for truth that we'd had to trust, and trust is like that other half of that, like truth and trust. Like how do you trust in whatever is that source for said truth, right? Like so if you think back into like the 1,000 years ago, truth used to come from the the clerics or the kings and queens and or like you said, like
there's
the religious
authorities,
and like the elites of society. Like if you go back to like the Egyptian eras, like the people who actually had the ability to be educated were the higher ups. Like you didn't even have a chance to learn how to read
right.
or write or anything. Like if you weren't at the high end of society. So on some level, like it's the same type of scenario going into the future. Like, and even today, like we have to put our trust into something for this source of truth. And thankfully, there's been like science and stuff that has been like putting the playing field on this like sort of level state. So we have peer review and we have all these methods of like being like, okay, well, you discover that, let me try to see if I can break that down and see like if we can confirm that or deny that or whatever. So,
and even that is like constantly battling like politics as well. Like, so,
but in going into the future, like if you have a super intelligence like that is controlling truth, then it becomes like this is like the whole thing. It's like, well, okay, who created the underlying code? Because like you could imagine if it's like traceable to Elon Musk or something, like you know that there's just going to be like forever that stench of like
100%.
People are going to be like, all right, well, can you ever trust that then? Because of like,
it's so true. And also, that goes back to what we were saying too about like with social media and like our current internet, the way that it is being like an attention economy and how it's kind of going to move into like how to manipulate emotions. And like obviously in our current setup, it's like capitalism. So it's like, how do we make money off of that? How do we change people's minds? How do we like interfere with elections? But like if we reach a point where I just saw Elon talking about this on TikTok, again, fact check. I never take all of it for like,
Jamie,
that is absolutely true. It's just interesting, obviously.
Yeah.
But he was saying like, if there is like a high universal income or whatever, like a post-capitalism, like
UBI and stuff.
I mean, like you just need like meaning really in your life. Like what's the point of like existing? And like what if it's like, it just kind of goes around in a circle because it's like, oh, they're going to manipulate our emotions. But like for what? Because what has meaning? Like if you can have anything you want or you have like right now, it's like we work to make money to get things we want and like you accomplish things and that gives you a sense of like purpose and meaning. But like what even would he be taking advantage of humans for? Like I can't even like understand why he would want to be evil. Like, do you know what I mean? Like what is he really, what's the drive? Because right now the drive is money, right? Like if that's kind of like a non-factor, I guess, in some type of like utopian society, then like what really is the point of being evil? Like is it just like the nature of a human?
Yeah. It's like, it reminds me of that Lord Acton quote, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you take that to the extreme, it's like artificial superintelligence has the absolute power. And like to the point, like, again, I haven't read the book yet, but I've heard Nick Bostrom talk about these things a little bit. And like he mentioned, I think it was in the Sam Harris podcast or something, talking about how the meaning thing and like how, in a world where you can basically like let's say in this utopia you have like a brain computer interface and this you're connected to a super intelligence that can manipulate your technically your neural pathways to the point where it can create memories, it can teach you in a second, like basically new things. So you can, like, it's basically that scene from The Matrix where, they're trying to escape the building and it's like there's that helicopter and it's like, let me just upload the, the schematics so you can, it's like, all right, cool. I know Kung Fu. I know the helicopter now. So if you have this ability to just, in a drop of a switch, just to like learn pretty much anything, it's like where you don't, there's no like, so he talked about like maybe there will be like, the kinds of people who really do want to then just like set limits and like, have like sort of, you know, sort of analog experiences, like
Yeah.
just to go and explore the world and like, you know, go climb a mountain without like having a helicopter just drop you off and on top of it, like,
Right.
and like and things like tradition like are still things that are gonna exist. So like having like people might just get really like into traditions and like
Right.
you know, just upholding certain like traditions just for the sake of traditions, like cultural traditions or whatever that might be. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, even like the idea of like robotics getting to the point where it's like, well, is it fun to watch a bunch of robots perfectly play football, or would you just rather go do that yourself?
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, like, or watch two robots fight a UFC fight. Like,
Yeah.
sure, and that's its own. It's almost like its own like subcategory.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it's like the same thing with the AI art and stuff. It's like, to me, that it's like, you know, photo mashing. You know, that
Yeah.
stuff. It's like it's a subcategory of art. Some
Yeah,
people
I don't
hate
think it's
that
like
stuff.
replaced anything.
Yeah, it's
At
like,
least not in my experience.
in a way, it's its own subcategory. The problem is obviously the blurring of lines where you can't tell. It's like, well, is that or isn't it? But
Right, right,
like,
right.
But there's these like big like sort of subcategories, and one thing that it also reminds me of that is like sort of like a hot topic is that, you know, that there will be a portion of people who will just choose not to go down that pathway of like,
I mean, there
I
are
don't-
now.
Yeah.
Like Amish people.
yeah, exactly. So like you take, but imagine a scenario where like even like a small percentage of the population is connected to a general intelligence, not
Yeah.
even a super intelligence, but like
Right.
imagine that, you know, I'm connected through my brain computer interface to a super intelligence. We're having this conversation, like, and
We
you're
wouldn't be
not.
friends.
It would be like, it would be a different thing. It would just
Like,
be
no thanks.
like, yeah. It's just like there's that book from Yuval Noah Harari who wrote *Sapiens*. The second book after that called *Homo Deus*, which kind of talks about this idea of like the evolution of human beings to the next
Right.
thing. So Homo sapiens becoming Homo Deus, which is like the sort of next phase. So
I do like lean towards all of that thinking, like integrating it in some way, because we already integrate technology in our life in every single way. So like having it actually integrated to me seems like a natural step. It seems scary. Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm not scared of it, but like
I think you and I both are in the same ballpark that we would go into the rabbit hole.
I would go into the rabbit hole.
So how?
I don't like being left behind. I like to experience like the
Yeah.
forward movement.
Do you have any like? Would you have any limit? Like, because this is kind of like Cyberpunk. Have you played that game? 2070, 71?
I've watched people play it, but I haven't played
So
it.
there's like, you can choose in that game like kind of like your different faction and stuff. Like, like
Okay.
how do you want to be like a nomad, or do you want to be like a super cyborgy techno like crowd, or like if you had to choose, like, you know, like let's say you just get dropped 200 years into the future, or at this point it's probably like 20 years. But like let's say you're in the future and
That's so scary.
you can choose like your own adventure. Like how far would you, like if somebody comes up to you right now and is like, all right, what do you want? Like, we got like robot arms, robot legs. We can completely manipulate. You can get new eyes. Like, we can put implants into your brain. And like, would you go like fully cyborg, or like how would you have like certain parts of you that are like, no, I want to keep this humanity?
I think my limits would be cognitive. With my body, I'd be like, let's fucking go. Like,
Okay, sick. Yeah.
crazy legs, crazy legs. I want to be able to, all the physical things, like, let's go.
Okay.
If I would look like freaky and like I'm picturing myself as like an alien fairy, futuristic, whatever. Like
Yeah.
the physical stuff, fun, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at that point we'll have ways to do it safely. I think like cognitively, I would want to keep some like human
Some.
instincts.
I like
You-
the sum.
You picked up on the sum. It was very intentional. Of course, it would be amazing to be able to learn things quickly. But like, I wouldn't want to replace like, and I guess that's like what we get into. It's like, where is that line? And that's like
Right,
what
right.
Transcendent is kind of about. Like, what would I protect? And like, what is love? Like, how do you protect love and your human like feelings, your empathy, like those things, but also have like this like super intelligence? Like, I don't know. Like, would there be a way to protect that?
Right. So maybe,
Like, it's like strange to think about. But yeah, physically, I'd be like, let's go.
okay.
All the
So
like
you go full cyborg.
physically would be really cool. But also, I have like a physical disability. So in my brain, I'm like, that would be so awesome. I could do all the things and more, which I think is great because I do think our physical body like can limit us so much, obviously depending on the person, but like like beyond just like superhuman abilities, just like a lot of people lack abilities that other people have. So like I would first be like, okay, let's make me like run and ride a bike again. Cool. That's just the basics. And then if I could like sprint really fast. That's cool too.
If you're gonna get the upgrade, might as well get like the extra like T1000 edition.
Exactly.
Might as well run like if you're gonna run like you just go like 100 miles an hour.
Like I say, like I would protect like my emotions and my heart, but it's like I do fear it could be that thing of like plastic surgery. Like you get one thing and then it's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Like
maybe I could get another, and then it just spirals. Yeah, and then you're covered in tattoos.
Right. Yeah.
Fully down the rabbit hole.
I fully get that. I don't have any tattoos, but I feel like I would be like that too. Like I get one and then I got full sleeves. I'm
and
just
then you're the
up to my
tattoo
neck.
person.
Like, yeah. All right.
But yeah, I
well,
embrace it. I embrace the technology.
Yeah, I think I feel like I'd probably be something similar.
Yeah, what are your limits?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it also reminds me of the idea that like, well, there's that. Well, Ray Kurzweil has. I think he's the one who talks about this, but there's a whole community of people who actually talk about this. But it's the longevity escape velocity, which is like the idea where, basically, well, Ray's prediction is that in 2029, which coincides with his prediction with AGI, is that we will sort of, for every year that we live, we will gain back 1 year of life because of how developed our medical field is. And at this point, he's been quoted as saying that today in 2024, for every year we gain about 4 months back or something like that. So the idea is that like eventually you can just kind of ride the wave of technology into infinity, sort of. That's the sort of idea.
I'm like most excited about that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, so like nanobots and stuff like that are obviously that what come into play there. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because like on one level, like what that says, like it's really like, again, it's like this sort of like, if there exists a super intelligence, that we could realistically theoretically, let's just say we could, anything is possible at that point. Like that's the messed up part about this. That's why this is so crazy to even just to think about, because like presumably stuff like organic biological printing at that point would be like perfect or something, because we can already print like almost everything, not everything, but like tons of stuff.
Pretty
like
much.
we can
almost.
And there's people who have like artificial hearts, like you can print blood vessels and stuff. Like eventually, if you take that to the extreme, you could just, if my arm gets chopped off and I just want to stay fully biological, I'll just get them to print me a new one, like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, but I would still, I think I've joked about this with my wife before, where I'm like, I don't know if I might just want to have robot legs anyway. Like,
exactly.
Like, just because, like, why not? Like, that's just, or like if I had perfectly dexterity, like with my fingers, with a robot thing, I could just play piano like all day and not get carpal tunnel and like, and go way faster or something. Like, I don't know. That could be really cool.
Exactly.
So
it
yeah,
could be really fun.
I'm pretty sure like I'm somewhere similar to what you're saying. Like I would embrace the cyborg nature of our future.
Yeah, I don't think you can like I don't know how to like describe consciousness, but I do feel like instinctively like I have a soul that I need to protect. And so that I would protect like my humanity in a sense. I don't know what that is. And like really with everything we're talking about, like if you can print a body and you can create like that super intelligence, which also could experience emotions and everything, like really to me, like I guess foundationally that's a human, but something in me is like, no, but I have a soul and I need to protect my soul. I don't know what that is, but...
Absolutely.
Maybe that's a flaw. I'm just dumb. I'm not as smart as the computer.
Yeah. By the way, let me check where are we at on time.
Oh my gosh,
here.
yes.
1:14.
Oh my gosh.
1:14. So maybe we can
wrap it up.
We can start to wrap this one up here. But I will say on that topic though, with the like one more thing about the consciousness, and because it does, with the song, we talk about uploading and stuff.
Yes.
I remember like there's there's one theory around quantum physics that is talked about that is like, it's called the no duplication theory.
Okay.
Or a non-duplication theory. Jamie looked this up. But like, basically it says that because if I got it all right, there's there's these entanglement particles that are entangled they're together. Something about the entanglement basically means that you cannot duplicate a quantum state.
Right.
So
I think we talked about this literally in the studio.
We might have, yeah. So the idea there is that if that ends up being true, or that sounds, I think that is true. But so if it ends up being true that somehow quantum mechanics is tied into consciousness, if that is true, we don't know that, but there's people who are trying to like basically like prove this and like studying this. If it happens to be true, then the no duplication theory would imply that you could never duplicate your consciousness perfectly.
Right.
So even if you let's say you could duplicate it, it wouldn't be a duplicate basically. So
right. So then we do have like a unique soul and experience, and then that love between two people would be its own unique thing.
Yeah, so there's like the idea of like if you could teleport yourself to Mars, like let's say there's a colony or something there, and you get to choose.
Too hot for me personally.
Yeah, if you get teleported there, but the no duplication theory applies, and then you're there, are you dead? And there's a new completely other you that is physically exactly the same or whatever, or like basically has all your memories and everything else, but because of the non-duplication thing, it's now a completely different.
It's different.
So
that's so trippy. Also, I would watch that movie.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I that's the one. Again, the consciousness question is, to me, like probably the most interesting one out of all of these things, which is no surprise because it is ultimately what all even religion and stuff is that's what everybody's sort of like underneath it all sort of trying to grapple with, right? Yeah. It's like in stuff like idealism, where basically people believe that consciousness is the most fundamental thing in reality. There's this idea that basically like there's a sort of big C consciousness, which is like akin to God or something,
right?
Where it's like we are all sort of like just little c consciousnesses that are based off of
like
that.
If our
type
brain
of
is
thing.
receiving, like where is it receiving from? I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, who knows? Like again, this is super interesting to see where this kind of research ends up going in our lifetime with the help of AI and stuff, because hopefully we can peer further into the depths of the universe and by doing that into ourselves, right? Like this is like I used to have a reoccurring dream actually when I was in high school. I haven't had this in years, but it was this dream where I would go to sleep, and in my dream I would like see my eyeball, like just really up close. Like that was the whole vision, was just my eyeball. Whoa. And then it would start to like the camera would pan like slowly back and back and back and back and back, and I would see my room and like where I'm sleeping. Whoa. And then the house, and then like the neighborhood, and like the state, and like the
Google
country.
Maps, like zoom out.
Like those videos where they try to show the scale of the universe.
Right.
It would do that, and then it would just I'd see planets and like stars, and then eventually galaxies, and like the clouds and whatever gas giants or whatever, and then eventually
maybe you're an alien.
Yeah, well, maybe. But so what would happen was it would go, eventually it would just get so fast, everything would move so fast, and it would just get blurry, like just like a haze, like this thick haze, and slowly out of that haze would start to like this like structures would start to form, kind of like little like detail, I guess. Wow. And eventually that detail would start to get more and more coherent and coherent and coherent and coherent and coherent, and all of a sudden it was my eyeball again.
Okay, what? My recurring dream is like, I fell off a roller coaster. Wow.
But so I would always struggle with that, like trying to like again like what the heck does that mean? Like, because the classic thing about like, well, where does space end, right? Like, is there an end? Is
Right.
it infinite?
Well,
So
yeah,
like,
that's like a big loop. So
yeah, that's like a loop, and then but what? So that was my first initial thought of it. But now
Right.
recently,
yeah.
it to me what it like my new interpretation of it is
Okay.
that
Yes.
that it is what I was. So this is what sparked that the previous thing that I was saying about is that when we do science, when we as a human race, we look into space and we explore our, like our physical world and this thing that we're in with through AI and whatever it is, all these tools that we got, what we're essentially doing is looking into ourselves.
Right.
Like it's one of the same.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of saying about like it feels almost like my songs are like mid-journey. You're meshing all the ideas together. Like it's so strange because it's like which one is mimicking which one.
Yeah, it's like that. What's that one quote about when you look into the space or the universe, the universe looks back at you, or is it God looks back at you and blinks back at you?
Yeah.
You know that quote? I forget. I can put
We
it
need
up here.
another fact check.
Anyway, but yeah, I think that was a pretty like good roundabout through all of the
That was
things.
a good acid trip.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we covered like most things that I think we've discussed before. We've discussed all these things previously on some way or another.
I feel like I honestly could like talk about this and hear you talk about it and just like discuss it for hours.
Yeah. Honestly, like, yeah, I agree. I agree. It's so fun. It
is so fun because it's real. It's not just like theorizing about, I don't know, even like a scientific concept. It's like all of what life is going to look like. And the freaky part is it's not far off. Like people make predictions for like 2030 and
I think that's what's making
beyond.
It more interesting or more just visceral nowadays is the fact that it all feels like it's at our fingertips.
Yeah, it's right there.
And like all these people who have like these giants of all these fields that you've been talking about like the von Neumanns and stuff like. They were probably just as excited about talking. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to any of these people, like, but you know what I mean. Like, they had these grand visions, like, they had these grand visions, like in the 20s and 30s, and they were like talking about like coining the terms like AI and stuff. Like, it's just in some way, I feel like just kind of lucky, I guess, to be in this very specific time and place.
We are in a strange time too, because like we do experience so many like analog things, but also like this psycho technology.
Yeah.
So we are definitely in a unique time.
Yeah, like culturally feels like if we take a step back just in general, it just feels kind of, there is like a sort of nervous energy in the air. It feels like, and for many reasons, obviously, not just like the stuff that we've been talking about, but like just overall, there's just feels like there's this a lot of uncertainty, but at the same time juxtaposed with this like what we've been talking about, this like it almost seems ridiculous. Again, I've been saying this like multiple times now, but this like unbelievable like utopian-ness that just like seems like there's a rationality to it becoming tangible.
Yes, yeah.
And
like when you're talking about it, you're not like, oh, but that would never happen.
Yeah.
It's like, well, some of that's kind of already happening.
Yeah. And even if it's just a thought experiment at this point, like even the running the thought experiment is fun, because I feel like even if it doesn't, the end result in our lifetime isn't exactly what we're talking about here, even like if it's like 5% of that, it feels like that's still like insane.
And I want to understand like how I will, like when you're asking like what are your limits and everything, like that's part of why I'm constantly like reading different things about it and different people talking about their predictions, because I do want to know like how I'll handle it, or like what kind of person am I? Like, am I gonna go all in? Am I gonna whatever? And even just seeing like robots bartending or folding clothes, it's like I know when I get into a certain mental state, like doing little tasks and things like lifts my mental, and that like if those things are kind of stripped away, like in that sense, it's like if we have the option to just integrate these things totally into our lives, and you're standing there and they're like, do you want this or do you want that? Like, I want to know what I want and why I would choose that choice and what kind of life I want to live, I guess, ultimately.
Yeah.
I want to be able to like do dumb little tasks. I don't want a robot to do everything. I do think we find like happiness and purpose out of like accomplishing things as dumb as folding a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So like I want to know what to do when I am presented with the choices, but
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to just on some level think about these types of things just because, you know, like you said, it's even if it's just like a brain experiment, like a game for you to like then be prepared for a moment where you do have to make some decisions and you're like, yeah, they at least have some sort of theory around that you can base around those decisions on.
Right.
Not just to be like, oh my God, what's going on?
it is really funny to think about like the mundane things that will basically become like touching grass, like folding your clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways.
All right, well, maybe we can wrap it up there, I guess.
Cool.
We might have to do a part 2 on this, depending on how this goes.
We might need a 5-part mini-series.
Yeah. Exactly.
And also, the other song that we worked on is literally called Singularity, so...
Oh, right.
At least a 2-part series.
Oh, my God. I didn't even... Yeah, I forgot totally... Oh, yeah, well, if that does come out, then we'll definitely have to do a part 2, and we're going to have to dive straight into that one, but...
Exactly.
All right, well, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It was fun.
Super fun.
Again, we'll hopefully do this again sometime, but till the next time, we'll wrap it up there, and go listen to the song and check it out, and maybe, I don't know, leave a comment or something. Like, go check out her socials. I'll link that stuff there somewhere under there or whatever. And what else is there? Is there anything else crucial? Is there anything you're up to in the near future that is worth knowing?
Just all the things.
More music, right?
More music, always, yeah.
Shows, anything like that?
Nothing on the books at this very moment that we're recording, but...
Okay, cool. Well, if it comes up, I'll put a link down below.
Perfect.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Till next time. Peace.
Okay, now that we did that, you need like some type of like futuristic salute.
Futuristic salute?
You need like see you on the other side.
See you on the...
Not that, but like
yeah.
some way of like signing off until... I'm just like picturing you in this version.
Just disappearing.
And then you
My
in like,
body
and then you in a new like...
apparition.
Literally
Yeah,
coming
I
in
mean,
and out.
if I could hire
Like,
somebody to do like
smoke.
a CGI where we both just disappear.
Honestly, so worth it.
Like, we just become I mean, the whole thing with the ghost and stuff. Like, we just like...
No, for real.
That would be dope, yeah. Okay.
It's so funny. Okay,
We'll do that.
One
We'll
other
do
thing
that.
that I could have yapped about for hours is